At the end of the year, I pleaded with my parents to let me move to another town. I couldn't go on living inside of the beach where Kate had been swept away and my nightmares would stop, which is an example of kind of like traumatized psychology, where it shows like the actual intention of the event. And I show like psychology gives another deep perspective of the potential bad effects of survival skill.
To piggyback off of that, I said from the 7th man, paragraph 41 to 42 on page 140. It took me a long time to recover from the emotional shock. I stayed away from school for weeks. I hardly ate a thing and spent each day staring at the ceiling. Kay was always there, laying in the stick, grinning at me. His hand outstretched, beckoning. I couldn't get that picture out of my head. And that shows like he's constantly like thinking of what happened and probably thinking too of what he could have done to help save.
Internal like effects of survival guilt, which gives a lot of like strong points and understanding as to why we do things like that, like why we have nightmares or why we'll like separate us like ourselves socially because of those certain actions.
I agree with that. I think history is a good one because it shows, like she said, like what happened, like you guys said, but how it shapes you. But the impact of history goes more down to psychology and philosophy, because history does happen, but those are just the facts, I think. But psychology is what happens because of that history.
And then for my counterclaim, I included like why people may choose philosophy, which was in paragraph 9, page 155. And it tells how with philosophy, it gives you kind of a definition of like what survivors go.
Usually overcome it, or maybe they don't overcome it, but it shows the ending either way.
What do you think, Parker?
I think that psychology is the really understand what they're thinking. And
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I agree with Parker. Because like it's like into the brain, so like when you think about it, I don't really know what to say.
I agree with that because, like I've said before, but it doesn't just show the facts, it shows how it affects you and what you're going through. Like history mostly just kind of shows the past and how it affects the future, but it doesn't show specifically what the person is going through or exactly how it affects the future, like philosophy and psychology.
I do have a question for the ones that did pick history. Why was that your initial thought when you first saw the question?
I do because like you know how like we have like a frame story in like the 7th man in the beginning where like it shows how he is today, and then it brings back history from the past of like how he feels like when he was little, but it also like I think it relates to what Joe was saying because it shows exactly or like how he exactly feels, and that's not really history. That's
That is a good point. It's really good to know the starting point of it. Because you can see how he is then, and then you can see how like the past is
my initial for this question was philosophy, but like I felt like history like really showed like the beginning and like to how they feel now. So like from the start to like now, like how it affected them.
So you have to see cause and effect of it.
Yeah. I agree with what you said. I feel like
Alright. Y'all did phenomenal. And what really is beautiful about this is that you guys are capturing that sort of thing that I was speaking of, that like it's a collaborative intellectual journey, and usually we like come into these circles and we like argue and we have different opinions, but what you guys are doing are making these moves that are like acknowledging the importance of these different views, and like, you came with two things from the get-go. You were like, no, it can't just be one. You're like, it's two. And then like you're like all saying how all of these things are so impactful. Y'all did a phenomenal job. now you're doing the student question next, y'all, it's question 4. So if we could rotate, if